Fred Hicks talks Kickstarter today on the show.
Hello and welcome to Pulp Gamer Prime. I'm Don Down.
And I'm Scott Forrester. Today on the show, we'll be talking Kickstarter with Evil Hat's Fred Hicks.
But first, we're very tickled to announce that silent steampunk series, The Adventures of Silver and Brass, is now available online. You saw it up on the big screen first there at Gen Con. It's now on the internet with full custom piano accompaniment. Captain Silver and Penny Brass must chase down the villainous Rob Steele and reclaim the lost treasure. The Adventures of Silver and Brass is available at pulpgamer.com, or you can just subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/pulpgamer.
Nice. Also be on the lookout for the series finale of Zhon, the Alien Chronicles. It will be up on our website in the next couple of weeks. Zhon, of course, is that extraterrestrial who turned himself into the federal government for questioning, and we are finally finding out why.
On the sheepfront, news ram Bob McWardle has left the Bob and Angus show to pursue a journalism career in Chicago. Claire and Angus plan on continuing this series. Starting on February 7th, Season 6 takes off. The Bob and Angus show has been airing without fail every Thursday now for almost 2 years. From pulpgamer.com, YouTube, mayfairgames.com, and several other internet video providers.
Well, as we've said again and again on this show, Kickstarter is a huge new trend in gaming. In fact, Kickstarter themselves put up a best of 2012 list, and not only did gaming have the most money pledged of any category, but get this, of the 17 Kickstarter projects that brought in over $1 million last year, 10 of them were gaming related.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gamers were taking over the world.
Indeed. In fact, I've already seen 2 projects in 2013 that have brought in over $1 million, gaming projects. So it's very cool. Evil Hat Productions has a Kickstarter for their Fate RPG system. They set a modest goal of $3,000, and at last count, with 12 days to go, they're over $270,000.
Wow, that's like a Googling percent or something.
I know.
Based on my calculations.
You need to get a calculator to figure that out, right?
It's a lot anyway.
It is. Well, we've got Fred Hicks, the mastermind behind Evil Hat, here to tell us how it's done. Welcome to the show, Fred.
Thank you. Before we get too much further, I just want to make one small correction because I don't think it's a Googillion percent or whatever that was. I think it's more like over 9,000.
Oh man, we just got out-geeked by Fred Hicks.
We did.
On our own show, no less.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah, thanks.
Do what I can. Do what I can.
Anyway, to business. You set a $3,000 goal.
Yep.
And so far, more than $270,000 pledged. Last I checked.
That's what they tell me.
What's this? Yeah. What is the what? Good. Hopefully that's accurate. So, what's the secret?
There isn't one. I get asked that question a lot, and the reality of it is that if you want to have a big Kickstarter. Or at the very least, a decent shot at success, you need to build up an audience and come to the party with it. A really strong idea that kind of has an intrinsic reason to buy to it is a little harder to come by, one might say. Both require hard work. But I think where you see the most consistent success in a Kickstarter, it's with people who already showed up with a certain amount of audience built. And for us, we've spent 10 years building up the Fate audience. So we showed up, as I said, to the party with with a pretty good posse at our back. But look at Amanda Palmer, right? She had her whole giant fan base, and then blew the doors off with a Kickstarter. That's. It's a new market, it's a new paradigm, but you're still looking at some core truths that are true whether it's a Kickstarter or not.
Let's talk now. You've played with Kickstarter around a couple of times, and this is quite a different business model actually. In that when you're, some people would like to think of it as shopping, but you actually take a little bit of risk when you invest in a Kickstarter project. How does somebody protect themselves against that kind of challenge? There's been projects that come up before that just either failed or they're flopping along? How can you
Well, we're looking at
string-
this. We're looking at this from the consumer's perspective, right?
Mhm.
Certainly, there are risks that a person running a Kickstarter is experiencing as well. But when they show up to Kickstarter, one imagines that they are looking at Kickstarter to reduce those risks. But when you're doing that reduction, you're actually more doing a transfer. You're saying, "Hey, could you assume some of that risk with me to your backers?" And it's a tricky thing. I mean, you're like I was saying, Kickstarter is it's a new paradigm, but it's still a marketplace, and every marketplace carries the caveat emptor element to it. But I think Kickstarter has made some good choices, and will likely continue to make some good choices about how to help people make the evaluations that they need to when they're deciding whether or not to back. The fairly recent introduction of it being mandatory to have that risks and challenges section at the bottom of each Kickstarter page. I think it goes a long distance, because I think people are going to get more and more used to looking down at that and reading it and sort of getting kind of a sniff test as whether or not someone is really thinking through all the problems that they need to and have figured it out. Because all these delays, I think any Kickstarter is going to have a certain amount of delays, but you get a sense of how well the project runner is going to communicate through that risks and challenges section. You get a sense of whether or not they've got some speed bumps coming ahead that they aren't expecting.
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty easy for somebody to go looking at Kickstarter, wanting to do a project with dollar signs in their eyes, thinking, "Oh my God, look at all these places that have done all this stuff." It's like, I could do anything for $1 million.
Well, right. I mean,
there's a skill set that comes in business planning that it's just not that easy.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is that with Kickstarter, you really need to look at any Kickstarter that you're running as a short-lived startup. And you need your business plan. You need to know how you're showing up there, what your market is, how you're reaching that market. That's the audience part. But also your exit strategies. What happens if you go big? What happens if you minimally fund? What happens if you fail? And you need to consider all of those things. And you need to consider them fairly completely. I suppose the contrast there is the Kickstarter business plan for someone with the dollar signs effect that you were talking about, looking at it going, "Yay, Kickstarter! There's my plan."
Yeah.
And
now, of course, you're an established business, like
Right.
so many other successful Kickstarters.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, though. With as an established, content creator as yourself, with 10 years of experience putting stuff out there, and we've got some customers who are going to look at Kickstarter and go, "Ooh, there's a $30 book. Like Don, I want to get that when it comes out. I'm going to pay $30 right now, and it's done. I'll get it when it shows up." But now, previously you've had stuff going out through retail stores and traditional channels. How does that change the relationship or affect the relationship you have with those channels you already have relationships with?
Well, I think if you're not careful about also considering your existing business relationships, this is also part of the planning, you can end up just pretty much destroying them, right? Oops, did I drop that torch behind myself on the bridge? Clumsy me. We really wanted to look at the retailer and distribution side of things and make sure that we were offering essentially an equivalent experience, or as equivalent as we could manage experience for their in-store customers who were pre-ordering a product through them rather than through the Kickstarter. We gave them permission to essentially give all of the digital goodies that we're giving out to our backers to anybody who's pre-ordering the product through their store. So there's a fairly close equivalence between someone pre-ordering during the Kickstarter time period, pre-ordering with the store, the same book that we're offering through our Kickstarter. So
nice.
That's
You set an incentive. You set an incentive that if they want to support their retailer, they can get the same benefit they would get if they pledged on Kickstarter.
Right. And basically, I mean, the logic comes down to you don't want to look like you're in competition with your business partners.
Right.
Right. So you make sure that offer the same deals that you can.
Thanks, Fred. But before we go, is there any other observations you made about Kickstarter or secrets you want to impart upon us?
You really just have to, I think, love customer service. And I'm not saying that customers don't grind you down occasionally, but I think if you can really just genuinely engage with your customers as if they're your friends or your peers, and keep the lines of communication open but not overpowering. And try to head off any concerns at the pass. You'll build a kind of trust relationship with your backers that will keep them, in the project, keep them upgrading, when certain opportunities to do so do, and hopefully have them coming back for your next project if you're going to do one.
Well, I appreciate it, Fred. That's awesome. Of course, be looking for. I think the best way to find you is probably search for Fate Core or something on Kickstarter.
You can search for that on Kickstarter, and you can also go to the Evil Hat webpage at evilhat.com, and we've got a link right up front.
Excellent. Okay. That'll be easier, and there's a few more days in order to get in on that one. So
10, 11, 12, something like that right now.
Depending on when you view this. Maybe maybe you're just going to have to go to your local retail store.
Go now!
So anyway, thanks again, Fred, and it was great having you on the show. Wow, that was good stuff. I pledge on Kickstarter every once in a while.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah,
I've done it a couple times.
Yeah, sometimes it's something I like, and sometimes it's just a nod to say, "Oh, this is really cool. I can't afford it, but this is still really cool."
Yeah, sometimes you just want to support.
Throw something in the tip jar. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I like what you're doing. Here's some money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks. Have fun.
Hey.
PulpGamer.com